After Western sanctions hit Russia following Putin's invasion of Ukraine, the Kremlin turned to secrecy. Russian-flagged ships were too easy to track or stop, so Moscow began using disguised vessels with hidden identities and no clear ties to Russia. Thus, the Shadow Fleet was born. Relying on this Baltic-based fleet to sustain its war finances, Russia now faces a major setback, as Denmark is moving to choke a key route, a smart blow to Putin's Shadow Fleet. On October 6th, Tradewinds reported Denmark will rely on illegal escalation, more rigorous ship inspections, not missiles, to render Russia's Shadow Fleet ships inoperable. According to Tradewinds, Denmark plans to intensify environmental checks on old and worn-out ships at the busy Skagen Red anchorage, through which roughly 60,000 vessels pass each year. Russia has used the Skagen Passage to slip its Shadow Fleet through, but Denmark will now intensify inspections on scrubber water, fuel use, waste handling, and scrapping documents, according to Tradewinds. By tracking every Shadow Fleet indicator, Denmark aims to catch Russia's risky, uninsured vessels before they move oil, effectively shutting down a key source of war funding. Facing war costs of about $1 billion daily, Russia risks financial ruin if oil profits stop. Denmark's Industry and Trade Minister Morten Bodskov confirmed tougher inspections, declaring, "We must end Putin's war machine." That includes the Russian Shadow Fleet. At Skagen Red, we've identified aging, unsafe ships, Bodskov explained. Our authorities are increasing inspections to ensure the safety of Denmark and its waters. With funding in place and more inspectors ready to board vessels, Denmark's plan stands out for its elegant simplicity. Western sanctions grounded Russia's legitimate fleet, pushing Putin to buy aging, substandard ships to build his Shadow Fleet. That was troubling on its own, but a bigger, often overlooked problem is that many Shadow Fleet ships pose serious environmental and safety risks, as Marine Insight explained in an August 2025 report. Marine Insight said the Shadow Fleet is growing by 30 ships per month, composed largely of old, uninsured vessels that conceal ownership and use hazardous evasion tactics like disabling AIS and risky mid-sea transfers. The key detail is that most Shadow Fleet ships are over 15 years old. While oil tankers typically last 20-25 years, Vox reported in March 2024 that reputable operators usually sell them after 15. Putin's Shadow Fleet comes from tankers abandoned by owners unwilling to pay for costly maintenance. For Russia, age doesn't matter as long as the ships don't sink. Putin might overlook his fleet's age, but Europe can't. Older ships bring growing environmental dangers from worn parts and outdated emission systems. And considering these tankers carry vast amounts of oil, it would take just one aging vessel's failure to unleash a massive spill into the Baltic Sea or beyond. Worries over the safety and reliability of Russia's Shadow Fleet are nothing new. Bloomberg's March 2023 investigation spotlighted the Turba, a 26-year-old tanker that hadn't seen a proper inspection since 2017 and was operating without the necessary insurance coverage. Rather than retire it, Putin kept the ship active, relying on it, and many other aging, poorly maintained vessels to keep Russian oil exports flowing in defiance of Western sanctions. Bloomberg also emphasized that aging tankers quickly become too costly to maintain. Tankers normally undergo special surveys every 5 years, the outlet explained. By the 4th inspection, operating them is no longer economical. These surveys can cost $3 to $4 million for large tankers, followed by another inspection just 2.5 years later. With inspections costing millions, most legitimate owners retire their tankers rather than pay up. Russia, on the other hand, doesn't. The results are now surfacing. TVP World reported on October 6th that several of Russia's decaying Shadow Fleet ships are already causing environmental harm. A joint Politico source material report cited by the outlet found that at least 5 blacklisted tankers have left large oil slicks behind. While not yet disastrous, these incidents highlight Russia's total disregard for safety and the environment as Putin continues using ships until they fail. The EU's stance on shipping emissions poses a clear problem for Russia. Under the FuelEU Maritime Framework and ECA zones, ships must gradually cut carbon intensity 2% by 2025 and 80% by 2050 and limit sulfur emissions to 0.1%, as already enforced in the Baltic and North Seas. The EU's goal is clear: reduce carbon emissions and enforce strict environmental standards for shipping. Russia, through its shadow fleet, disregards these rules. Denmark's expanded inspections align perfectly with EU and Mediterranean frameworks, leaving Moscow no valid grounds to object. Any protest would effectively confirm the fleet's Russian ties, defeating its covert purpose. In this way, Denmark can lawfully stop these ships, and Russia can't challenge it without exposing itself. Russia has limited Baltic Sea exits. War on the Rocks highlights 3 choke points: Skagerrak, the site of Skagen Red, and Kattegat, both under the NATO nations Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. If they adopt Denmark's stance, Russia's shadow fleet could be effectively boxed in. Compounding that, all ships sailing east or north must pass by Denmark's Bornholm Island. Bornholm's connection to Denmark's Baltic strategy will be discussed later. What's important now is that these choke points are the last thing Putin wants, since the shadow fleet is essential to Russia's war machine. The Kremlin's continued investment in these aging, costly ships underscores their importance despite their declining condition. Craig Kennedy's Navigating Russia reports that since May 2022, Putin has spent $14 billion acquiring shadow fleet vessels. A Follow the Money investigation revealed that European and American ship owners have reaped at least $6.3 billion from these transactions. Though Western governments may struggle to block such sales directly, Denmark's crackdown ensures Russia's money is squandered once those ships are stopped. Putin's massive spending has a clear purpose. As Jamie Shea of Friends of Europe explains, oil remains one of Russia's most lucrative exports. Last year, he said of 2024, the Kremlin earned $16.4 billion from oil sales, 5% more than in 2023. These revenues help Moscow stabilize the ruble, manage its budget deficit, and maintain a positive balance of payments to fund imports. The shadow fleet is therefore crucial, not only for financing the Ukraine war, but for sustaining Russia's broader economy. In July 2025, the UK sanctioned 135 tankers from Russia's shadow fleet, which together moved $24 billion in oil since early 2024, an estimated $16 billion yearly revenue for Moscow, validating Putin's $14 billion investment. The EU has sanctioned 444 such vessels, with 120 more expected soon. As sanctions tighten around Russia's shadow fleet, Denmark is reinforcing the effort with a real-world barrier at Skagen Red, placing all suspect ships under scrutiny. Some could argue this should have been done years ago, and perhaps they're right. But Denmark's action may also be a response to mounting incidents revealing that Russia's ambitions endanger more than Ukraine alone. Denmark is now on Putin's radar. In the days leading up to its announcement, Reuters detailed several Russian naval provocations in Danish waters, warships intentionally steering toward collisions, targeting Danish vessels with weapons, and employing GPS jammers to interfere with navigation. Denmark chose an unexpected, lawful counter: intensify ship inspections to reduce the shadow fleet's effectiveness, and, by extension, strike at Russia's military funding. Denmark's response goes beyond inspections. While its new tactics are innovative, it's also preparing in more conventional ways to counter Russia's influence in the Baltic. Strengthened inspections are only the start of a wider, proactive plan. In September, Denmark joined 13 other countries in the Baltic Sea's northern coasts exercise, sending a frigate and all mine clearance ships to practice tactical coastal warfare. The drills focused on defending free passage from Russian hybrid tactics, signaling that Denmark's readiness extends beyond enhanced inspections. Denmark revealed in June that it will deploy sail drones in the Baltic Sea, autonomous sailboat-shaped vessels built in California that act as mobile surveillance platforms. Outfitted with sensors, cameras, and radar powered by onboard AI, they generate clearer maritime intelligence than satellites. The Guardian reports that these devices could help Denmark spot shadow fleet ships, including those linked to undersea cable sabotage. That island we talked about before, the one every ship must pass when moving in or out of the Baltic, is Bornholm Island. It's now set to become much more than a simple observation post. On September 8th, the Nordic Reporter stated that Denmark is setting up a new military unit on Bornholm Island. Named the Bornholm Regiment, it will be the Danish Army's 10th Regiment, consisting of 500-900 personnel and 15 Patria 6x6 armoured vehicles, and will expand on the 200 soldiers already stationed there. Though the move may appear small, Denmark's army of roughly 23,000 personnel makes a 1,000 soldier deployment significant. Plans to expand to 28,000 by 2033 further reflect its growing defense focus. The militarization of Bornholm fits neatly into a broader NATO effort to secure the Baltic region. There's nothing Russia can do to counter Denmark's actions. Its inspections and Baltic military buildup are entirely within Danish territory and international law, aligning with EU frameworks. While inspections alone may not halt Putin's decrepit fleet, the added pressure will remain a persistent problem he can't fix. Putin's limited options have pushed him toward hybrid warfare and indirect aggression against NATO, moves that will only spark more pushback, like Denmark's in the Baltic. The true motive behind Russia's secret strikes is now emerging. Find out more in our latest video, and subscribe for ongoing Baltic Sea insights.